Good morning. Today, I want to talk about the power of forgiveness. And it's very apt in the world at the moment. It's very apt in the energy of Pisces. It was actually one of the major lessons perhaps we didn't or are still learning from the Piscean age as we move through into the Aquarian age. And this is really, forgiveness is the expression of the Christ consciousness coming through us. It's love and action. It's loving wisely. It's the will to good, the will to God. It's my will be thy will. It's expressing the messages of the great Piscean avatar, the Christ. It's expressing the messages of the Buddha and all the great teachers, spiritual teachers of our times. Forgiveness is to act from soul alignment, using the spiritual will to overcome our limited personality view of a situation. It's to use the discriminative mind to detach from the power of the emotions, the emotional desire nature, and lift into greater insight and understanding. To stand under and realize a greater truth that ultimately sets us free. And it sets us free of the emotional attachment associated with a grievance we hold against another. So forgiveness is something that we don't fully understand. Forgiveness is actually a great sacrifice. It is to give for. It's a recognition of our unity, and that when I harm another, I harm myself, because we are connected and we are one. So when I forgive another, I free myself and them, potentially. We have a belief that forgiveness is something we bestow on another, as if we're acting as judge and jury. And this is not the case at all. Forgiveness is really ultimately for our own healing, our own self-awareness, and our own self-realization. Forgiveness involves sacrifice. And it's the sacrifice of your ego or personality attachment to our limited perspective of another person or situation. And in forgiveness, in the act of forgiveness, we have to surrender past hurts, abuse, injustices, manipulation, shame, and guilt, some of the hardest human emotions that we experience. And we surrender to this understanding, to stand under a greater truth or a higher wisdom about what went on. We see things from a soul perspective. And I often say to people, keep lifting up, keep lifting up. The level of the emotion is the attachment to this happened to me, to my story, to this is wrong, to this injustice. And it's very real emotion, very raw emotion. And forgiveness does not involve not experiencing or honoring that emotion, quite the opposite. But we don't know the truth of a situation. We don't know when we have a grievance with another person, for example, we don't know what suffering they have been through. We don't know what they're going through at this moment. We don't know their particular point on their spiritual evolution. We don't know what's gone on in past lives for them between us. So these are just a few of the things that are unknown to us. We only have our limited perspective at this time. And we know that we are continually evolving and learning and growing. So my perspective today will not be the same as my perspective in 2 weeks. It's not the same as my perspective 2 years ago, 20 years ago. So when we sacrifice, there's a recognition of unity, of a desire to return to harmony, of right relations, of this will to good or will to God. Forgiveness is an act of the heart chakra and it has divine energy empowering you, and is one of the hardest things we do on our spiritual path of growth, and one of the most important. When we have a grievance against another, we harm ourselves. Instead of just suffering in the moment of whatever occurred, we suffer sometimes in our minds for years. We hold on to a story, and it builds, and it becomes so that it can become so that it defines us, so that we see the world through the eyes of that story. When people can't let go a big past experience, they see the world through the eyes of intolerance. And this colors everything they see and kills the joy in their life. Forgiveness honors the understanding that we are all connected. The Ubuntu phase, I am because you are. It sacrifices our societal value of the need for conflict and revenge, and opens instead to the power of love to heal and transform. So we have to make this shift. We can have resentment, anger, conflict, revenge, retribution, and those cycles we see in the world today, cycles that go back centuries, if not longer, playing out as conflicts in the world. We see it in families, conflicts that are passed down, grievances that are passed down. Oh no, we don't talk to such and such because of, quite often we've forgotten what happened. And so it's recognizing that if we want to continue that cycle of suffering, don't forgive. Find ways to avoid feeling the emotions. Find ways to distract. People become addicted to avoid emotional pain. They find they've got to be endlessly distracted in their lives to avoid going to that place where the feelings are raw. Forgiveness sets us free. And this is really where it's, if you like, it's an act of self-interest, certainly an act of self-discovery and self-growth. It sets us free of the perpetrator forever. Otherwise, they're in our head, often ruling our very way that we interact with the world and the way we see things. Maybe we could let that go and see things afresh in the moment. It sets us free of the endless suffering when we don't want to go near the raw pain, but we suffer often daily. It sets us free of the energy of fear and returns us to love. There's a belief in holding on to a grievance that if we hold on to it strongly enough, it prevents it happening again to us. So we avoid the emotional pain. But the opposite's quite true, because when we hold that low vibrational energy in our being, we continue to attract the same energy, opportunities, situations in our life to bring it up for our healing. So we will attract more of the same. And because energy follows thoughts, as our thoughts and story about the resentment grows, so we will attract similar vibrational energies. And we wind up with patterns in our life. Patterns of abuse, patterns of situations, and we start to say, why does this always happen to me? And that's a beautiful moment, and an opportunity to do something different. It sets the other person, the person we have this grievance with, it sets them free to learn, to grow and evolve if they choose to. And that's not our responsibility. We're only responsible for our own thoughts, actions, and choices. We're never responsible for another, not even our children. We can guide them. We can, especially in their formative years, we can help to teach them, but the best lessons we give are our example. If you want to teach your children to forgive and return to love, forgive and return to love yourself. Forgiveness does not condone behavior. It does not allow it to go unchecked, unrepented, or unacknowledged. Because the universal law of effect, cause and effect, will address any karmic consequences. That's not up to us. We are only responsible for our emotions, our holding on to whatever tightness is in us that's stopping us from forgiving. It actually opens the door and enables the potential for true repentance, healing, and redemption. It's like a tug of war where forgiveness, you just let go the rope. And that frees both parties to heal and learn and grow. A beautiful example, and I'll put the link in the description under this video, is a video on YouTube of a mother who, in a US court, hugs and forgives the killer of her son and his mother. This is her great sacrifice. She knows that revenge will just continue the cycle of, it was gang warfare, of killing and revenge. An eye for an eye renders us both blind. Whereas she found it in her heart to give a great sacrifice and to recognize her common humanity, to recognize the pain the mother of this boy was going through, to see his genuine remorse and pain. And in hugging him, he broke down, he cracked open. And that was his moment of profound healing. And he will go on to eventually forgive himself and maybe understand what was going on for that situation to have occurred. And so that for that mother to do that, that is, she is connecting to the will of God, or the will to good, a very powerful will energy, to have the courage to be that loving, to express unconditional love for a fellow human being who has harmed you in the most heinous way, takes an incredible soul action. It's a return to love. It's an expression of unconditional love. And I want to explain what happens in our energy chakras when we hold on to resentments and grievances and we're not yet ready to forgive. And just to reiterate here, forgiveness doesn't always happen on one big moment of release. Sometimes there's lots of little moments of release, and it's more of a gentle process over time. Sometimes it's a big whoosh, gone, and you're no longer the same person you were the moment before. Other times it takes more time. It depends on the person and what's gone on. Something that Desmond Tutu said, and he has had much experience with in the reconciliation tribunals following apartheid in South Africa. He does much work with forgiveness, and in the description I'll put a resource to his book on forgiveness written with his daughter, which is one of the best books I've ever come across on the subject. And he said, you know, forgiveness does not preclude your anger. In fact, anger, the extent of your anger at an injustice is really defining the extent of your love. And so anger still has a place in forgiveness, but it needs to be expressed. So this is where I want to explain what happens in the chakras. So when something happens that we perceive as wrong, as an injustice, as an abuse, something the other person has not behaved from a high vibration and from their highest self toward you. So sometimes it's not safe to express how we feel in the moment. So we take that energy, often anger, hurt, sadness, shame, and we bury it in our solar plexus chakra. And sometimes we'll go back to it, but more often than not, we don't want to go there. So it stays, that energy stays. And then every time something related to that happens, we bury those energies. And the energies wind up with a very blocked Manipura chakra, solar plexus chakra. This is where our attachment to it, attachment to our position is right and their position is wrong, our perspective on it, and it becomes quite tight. And that energy in the solar plexus chakra will define the way we see the world, the way we interact with the world, because this is where our vitality comes from. And this is also where we find our will energy. So to shift that energy, that grievance, that anger, that upset, to transmute it or transform it, we have to actually shift the energy from the solar plexus up into the heart chakra. And there has to be a loosening of the tightness and opening, because the heart chakra is about opening. So it takes will to do that, and it takes courage, which is doing what's right, loving even when there is fear present. And then once the energy moves up into the heart chakra, often we can, through the forgiveness, we can tap into acceptance. We may even feel love for everybody in the situation, like the woman in the court who suddenly saw the pain and suffering of the mother of the son who killed her son. So it opens us to compassion, to empathy, to starting to just feel our connection with another human being. And then what happens is, as the energy rises, it comes up into the throat chakra, Visuddhi. So Anahata is opening, maybe just a bit, maybe a lot, maybe gradually over time, maybe in one big whoosh. Lifts up into Visuddhi, the throat. Now, Visuddhi, the throat chakra, is about expressing truth, your truth. And it might be that then you get to say how that made you feel. Once the energy of the anger, the extreme energy of the emotion has been released. And in forgiveness, there will be difficult emotions. You will have to sit with that pain for a very short time compared to the very long-term suffering it has been causing you. But there will be a shift in energy and there will be pain. And that's where your courage comes into it, but also trusting the process. And it might be that you get to express your truth. It might be that you come to hear a truth. And it might be that you realize, that person had just lost someone. That person is in the first stages of dementia. That person is going through unbelievable suffering themselves. That person is doing the best they can with where they're at. You might see your part in it, how you triggered, how you did an act from your highest. You start to move up into the Ajna chakra, where you get insights, intuitive insights into the bigger picture. As it moves up to the crown, you get the soul perspective, bigger universal picture. You get the connection, realizing we're all one. And this can happen in a whoosh moment, and you can hardly grasp the understandings and the insights, or it can be a slower process where you do. But this is what happens when we forgive. So forgiveness, many people think of forgiveness as, oh, in my mind, I've forgiven you, I forgive you. They think the words forgive. That's not forgiveness. That's just another way of pushing it away and avoiding the emotion. Forgiveness is always emotional. There is emotional energy involved. If you're not screaming, crying, it's not true forgiveness, especially if it's a big one. If it's a little one, just gone. You just let it go. You choose not to react. You choose to forgive instantly when you let the anger go. Or it's a big one and you are emotional, and invariably you come to a place of feeling humbled by the process, and so very grateful for the process, for the courage you had, for the understanding, for the insights, because you know you are a different person after this process. So there's a gratitude and there is a lightness of being, because you have filled, you have lifted, you have released a tight, low vibrational energy and allowed love, a high vibrational light energy, to flood your heart. Your vitality returns to the solar plexus. Now, if we don't forgive, over time, the solar plexus chakra gets really blocked. And this will kill your vitality. You'll have fatigue. You won't sleep very well. You'll have no willpower. It leads to symptoms of depression. From a health point of view, this energy causes disease in your body. And it'll be diseases related to the solar plexus in the heart. It might be heart disease and cancer. It might be solar plexus, diabetes, liver problems, gut problems, obesity, putting on weight in this area of your body. These are all metabolic type energy flow issues, because this is stopping the flow of life force energy through you. And this is why forgiveness is really something we do for ourselves. It's soul work. And especially if in your life you're seeing repeated patterns, that's just all the down here in the solar plexus, and it'll be related to unconscious conditioning and patterns, and maybe lessons to be revealed from your unconscious mind. It might be past life stuff coming up for your healing. But forgiveness is the key, and this is really important, to the choice to be free. And it's your freedom. And that's the thing. If you want to see the eyes, if you want to see the world through the eyes of the victim of whatever happened to you and continue to suffer and attract more suffering, don't forgive. If you want to change that, forgiveness turns that key and sets you free. And because we're all connected, it has a ripple effect out, a healing ripple effect out to everybody involved. Back through ancestral lines, forward, prevents your children taking it on, prevents it moving into generations. So how do we forgive? Okay, there's going to be some resources that I'll put down in the description. So in the Buddhist tradition, it very much involves sitting with the emotion until it passes, with the insights, in meditation, with the insights that come with that. And I have found that for smaller grievances, this works. For big ones, that's hard to do. It's hard. You can do it. And if you've done a lot of meditation, it is easier. I'm going to, in the description, I really like the Toltec, or the Mexican, South American spiritual wisdom process of forgiveness. And I've put some resources about that there. Many shamanic processes or shamanic ceremonies or visualizations are a process of forgiveness. And the idea is that when you hold a grievance with someone, they own a part of your soul. So they do work for soul retrieval, to bring the parts of your soul back to make you whole. One of the most powerful is the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono forgiveness exercises. And in the meditation today, following this talk, I'm actually going to take you into meditation and go through my adapted version that I've changed slightly over the years of that Ho'oponopono, that Hawaiian process of forgiveness, because it is so powerful and it's really good for forgiving yourself, because the hardest person to forgive is yourself. recognize that when you go through forgiveness, the other person doesn't have to be present, involved, and you don't have to contact them or be present with them physically. They don't even have to still be alive for forgiveness to occur. So people often think, especially if there's been an abuse, I have to be in the presence of someone that they're fearful of. You don't. It's just yourself. It's self-realization. I've spoken about the effect forward and backward through generations. So you heal along an ancestral timeline, forward and backward. And this is to do with forgiveness happening in the here and now, because we know actually the past and the future don't actually exist. It all heals in the here and now. There will be emotional pain. Remember feelings of upset. Often we revert to anger because we find anger easier than shame or guilt or sadness. So quite often it's anger, especially in the West. That's our default emotion. But remember, anger is information. Anger says something inside of me is not healed. Something inside of me needs looking at. Something inside of me is out of balance. And life has presented a situation for me to realize that. And like I said, Desmond Tutu said, the extent of your anger is really the extent of your love. When injustices and awful things happen to people, it's our heart that responds to that. One of the resources I'll put is the books written by Edith Eger, who was an Auschwitz Holocaust survivor, her and her sister. And she writes of her 50-year journey of forgiveness for what happened to her in the concentration camps. And she describes it one of the hardest parts of that was to forgive herself for surviving when others didn't. And she says, of all the survivors she got together with, those that had healed past the traumas, forgiveness had been the key to their healing. You will need to sit with pain and feel it, not avoid it, not push it away, not lock it in a box and throw away the key. So there does need some courage there. You need to be in a place where you're ready to forgive. No one else can force you to forgive. You have to be ready. But do give yourself time for the healing. Understanding is the key. It will bring up a different perspective. It'll change your mind. You will stand under greater truths. So obviously you have to have open heart, open mind. The really powerful or final part of forgiveness, especially once you've managed to forgive yourself as part of the process, all forgiveness involves self-forgiveness, is the gratitude that you will eventually come to for the experience and the learning. And this is recognizing it was part of your soul path, this experience, and the process of forgiveness and returning to love was part of what you signed up for. So recognizing the hardest person to forgive is yourself and being very kind and compassionate with that process. It might be that you can only do it bits at a time. You take as much time as needed. It takes courage, but know that when you're ready to forgive, when the suffering of not forgiving becomes too much, you will be helped. You will be supported. You will be held in love. And you can always ask for help from your ancestors, from your spirit guides, from your guardian angels, from any particular angels, from ascended masters, from the universe, from nature, from spirit. You can ask for whatever help you need through that process, and that help will be given. So I'm going to leave the sort of understanding there. And I want to go into meditation now, where I'm going to take you deep into a place where the veil between your unconscious mind and your conscious mind becomes thinner, and where you can contact also your higher vibrations. We say higher, it's lighter, more loving aspect of your nature. You could say your higher self or your soul to help you in this process. And then we will do a visualization using the power of your mind, but also connecting with the energy, the emotions of the heart, to do an actual Ho'oponopono forgiveness exercise so that you can go back and watch this video if you need to do it again and again and again, which you may need to. Now, I would advise today, don't start with the great big ones, okay? Start with some small grievance, just something small that someone's done that you know you haven't let go, if you're honest. And that way you can get familiar with the process and it won't be too scary. And then you can gradually build up to maybe tackling the big one. And sometimes we like to have other people with us when we do that, to witness, to just be there and unconditional support. And sometimes we do it on our own. Often nature helps us. So sometimes it's being in an environment where we're grounded can really help. So get yourself comfortable, sitting upright in a chair. And we want to be upright so that the energies can flow through the chakras easily. You want your feet apart. And I want you to imagine that you're sending energy, a connection from just under the balls of your feet. There's a chakra there down into the earth, so that she is supporting and grounding us as we meditate and as we open our hearts and our minds in this process. Close your eyes gently and just become aware of your body sitting on the chair. We come into this present moment. All healing happens in the present. Be aware of the clothes on your skin. Become aware of any sounds in the room. Just let them be as they are. And now take that same awareness to your breath. And just notice, if you can breathe through your nose, would be ideal. Notice the breath coming in, cooler. Notice the breath leaving, slightly warmer. And if you're a little bit apprehensive, you'll find that you're breathing up on the top of your chest. There might even be some feelings of tightness in your chest, because what I've talked about has hit a few notes for you. Just accept that tightness. And then as you breathe gently, with your awareness focused on the breath, just allow the breath to go a little deeper with each cycle. If it helps, you can place your hands just on the top of your tummy, around your solar plexus. And gradually just breathe into your hands so your tummy fills with air. As you breathe out, your hands come back towards your spine, and this breathing will support the process. This deep breathing, deep yogic, deep diaphragmatic breathing will calm your mind to give space for healing. It will relax your body to allow energy to flow and healing to occur. So imagine that you're breathing through a channel that moves right through the center of your body, especially at the heart level between your sternum, your breastbone, and your spine. And if you notice tension in this part of your body, just accept it for now. It's always emotionally generated, this tension around our sternum, our breastbone. It's okay. Now let your breath find its own rhythm. Know that you are supported and you are safe. And just relax your mind, allowing your mind to rest gently on the breath. So not forced, as gentle as a butterfly rests on a flower. If your mind wanders, as soon as you realize, just bring it back to the breath and bring it back with an attitude of loving kindness. And as you focus on the breath, it will take you into a quieter place inside, a place of deep peace, a place where you can be clear and calm and access your strength and your courage. By choosing to meditate, we relinquish the hold of our personality ego and surrender to come into alignment with our higher self or our soul. Now gently take your awareness into the center of your chest. And we're going to work with the heart chakra, just gently opening this chakra. So in your mind, imagine a beautiful lotus bud, and it's closed at the moment. It can be pure white, maybe a cerise pink or a golden yellow. And as you breathe deeply into your belly, you're just gently allowing that beautiful lotus flower to open, slowly opening. It's opening to the rays of the sunrise. And the sunrise is the energy rising from the courage in your solar plexus. The lotus flower has roots down in the murky mires of whatever needs healing in you. But it produces this beautiful flower in your heart that is gradually opening. And you can see 6 perfectly formed petals. And pure, divine, unconditional love is flowing from that lotus flower to fill your whole being. You feel the love in every cell in your body. It runs in your bloodstream and emanates out into the aura or energy field surrounding your physical body. So as you breathe, more and more love fills your being. And you may become aware of areas where the love is not flowing, or there's a tightness or a resistance. That's okay. That's wonderful information. That might be something ready to be healed. And now in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine that you are sitting in an auditorium or a theater. So you're sitting in the audience, witnessing, and there is a stage in front of you. There's only you there. There's nobody else there. And it's a very safe place to be. And I want you to choose a small grievance, maybe a little kernel of tightness that you'd like to release. And I want you to bring to mind the situation that caused that tightness, if you know what it is. If not, just go into the tightness. So instead of avoiding the tight feeling in your body, actually go into it and embrace it. And if you know who's involved in this grievance, who you feel you have a grievance with, who didn't treat you the way you wanted to be treated, I want you to imagine that that person has just walked onto the stage and they are facing you. It's just you and them. And you look into their eyes and they look into yours, so that we work from a level of soul. You see their soul. And as you start to see the soul of this person, you may become aware of suffering they were going through at the time, misperceptions they had, just where they were at whenever this event happened, for which you hold this tight energy. And then I want you to look at this person through the eyes of love. And I want you to repeat 4 phrases to begin with. And you need to say them in your mind, but you feel them in your heart. You need to mean them. And you look at this person and you say, please forgive me. I am sorry. I love you. Thank you. So I'll say those again. Please forgive me. I am sorry. I love you. Thank you. Now, this may bring up all the reasons why they should be asking you for forgiveness, but this is recognizing I am because you are. And then just allow any feelings to move through you. If there's an uncomfortable tightness around your solar plexus or in your heart area, just be with that and allow it to move. If you're afraid to let that energy go, just be afraid to let it go, but recognize that. Ask for help and guidance if you need more help and courage. Tears are a sign that the heart is healing, that you've let something go. You may not be ready today to let this go, and that's okay as well. And now I want you to look at that person again. Look into their eyes. And I want you to repeat, I forgive you for not being the person I wanted you to be. And I love and accept you as the person that you are. And you can repeat that again. I forgive you for not being the person I wanted you to be. And I love and accept you as the person that you are. And just be present to any emotions that have arisen, any memories, any thoughts, And instead of pushing them away, just be present, sit with them, and let them pass. Because this too will pass. As you heal, it will pass. If it becomes too much, you can come back to this at another time. And then as part of this process, we can then invite onto the stage anyone else who is involved in that situation. And we do the same thing. I'll give you a few moments. If there's anybody else you want to invite onto the stage, look into their eyes. Please forgive me. I am sorry. I love you. Thank you. I forgive you for not being the person I wanted you to be. I love and accept you as the person that you are. And if there are numerous people involved, you could perhaps pause this video and go through that process with all of those involved. And then once you have brought all of those people onto the stage, you let them return to the wings, and onto the stage you bring yourself at the time that this grievance happened. So your former self, maybe your younger self, or it might be more recent. And again, you look into your eyes and see your soul. And you repeat the words, please forgive me. I am sorry. I love you. Thank you. I forgive you for not being the person I wanted you to be. I love and accept you as the person that you are or you were. That's something I learned a long time ago. That's not part of the traditional Ho'oponopono process, but something if you've got a tightness that's reluctant to shift, there are 3 questions you can ask yourself that often prompt it to just open and shift. Or if not, you'll realize you're not ready to forgive. And these 3 questions that we ask ourselves, the first one is, can I let this go? The second question is, will I let this go? And the third question is, when? And this will give you all the information you need to heal. Just gently rest in the peace of meditation, allowing your energies to rebalance. There will be a lot of shifts and changes going on after a process of forgiveness. And you need to allow yourself time. So for now, just begin to gently arise from the meditation, knowing that everything you have come to understand, all the insights you have gained, and the learning and growing you have experienced is there for you. But come back into an awareness of your physical body, maybe moving, releasing any held posture. Keeping your eyes closed for a moment. And then as you open your eyes, I want you to open your eyes as the person you are now. To open your eyes with pure awareness in this moment. Now, when you go through a process like this, you need to be gentle with yourself for as long as it takes to feel back to a balance and an equanimity. You might have to have a quiet rest of the day or a few days. You might find that memories come up and understandings come to the surface. It can help to write it down, to make sense of it, to stand under those truths. Your physical body may feel exhausted. Those energy shifts can be tiring. It's a good idea to ground your energy, to get out in nature, barefoot if possible on the ground, or to stand in natural water, or at least to go and stand outside and breathe with the earth through your feet. It's a good idea to drink plenty of pure water as you can, which will help to cleanse the energy field and the shifts and helps your whole body too. Because when we go through something like this, there are physiological changes as well. You may have vivid dreams. You may find that your relationships with people involved change undefinably. There's just an easing of attention. You've let go the rope. So just be open to all of these and give yourself the time and you need to heal. And if you found that you couldn't let go of something, it might be that you're not ready to yet, or you need to do this process several times, or maybe start with something smaller and just get used to the process of working with those energy shifts, because they can be quite scary if you're not used to energy shifts. I'm going to put a link to, there's a yoga posture that can really help after this process called Makrasan, the crocodile. And I'm going to put a link to some information. I've written an ebook about Makrasan, or a video where you can learn to do Makrasan. Makrasan is the perfect posture for releasing, for forgiving. So be gentle with yourself, be kind, be self-loving. Namaste.